When you're watching Wally, listen, let me tell you, this is the best Pixar movie. Hands down, it's a fight for second place. You can't debate it, it's not arguable. You're literally arguing for second place at this point. Wally, compared to the other Pixar characters, all right? I think the other Pixar characters all have personality, you know what I mean? They're associated with something that we all understand, you know what I mean? Wall-E is a fictional character created for this movie in particularly. He's not based on anything that's already pre-existing, like Toy Story, those are based on toys. We can all connect with toys. They got Mr. Potato Head, they got a T Rex, they got a Space Ranger, they got a cowboy, right? These are references that we can all connect to. Bugs Life, they're ants. You know, they're small bugs that have their own unique personalities. Okay, that's fine, but they're all ants. You know what I mean? They convey that well thought out. You know what I mean? The Incredibles, they're superheroes, so it's kind of like a cheat. You know what I mean? Remy's a rat, so there's kind of like this hatred for him, but then also like he has this love for cooking that we explore and we figure out, right? Wally is a robot who can only say his name. He can only say Wally, and he's a trash compactor. They literally designed this robot to one not be able to speak, and his main objective is to clean up the trash that we left behind on Earth, right? And they tell that and they show that to us through exposition. They show us this is Earth. They show us who Wally is, you know what I mean? And that's the cool thing about it is we don't have to figure out through dialogue who Wally is or where he lives and what he's doing, why he's doing it. We just see him doing it. We just see who he is. We see that he's a hoarder. He goes out and he collects items that he thinks are cool from our trash, you know what I mean? He has a pet cockroach who he likes, you know what I'm saying? It's like, where does this personality come from? How long has he been on Earth? All of these little different questions and whatnot pieced together in our minds like, he's all alone doing this, by the way. There's solitude, you know what I mean? And that's why he's so cool and he's so connected to humans is that like he loves music, he loves dancing, he loves that feeling of connection, he loves picking up our little hobbies and our little intricacies and all of our like trash that we throw away like Rubik's cubes and bobbleheads, and he's collecting hats and bras, and he's just being funny and goofy, and he's all of those things combined in one, but we see him do it, you know what I mean? And we learn the mechanics of how he operates, you know what I mean? It's throughout the story we see how he has extra parts from other Wallies that have broken down and are like still in good shape, and he takes those parts and he gets new tire tracks, new eyes. He's got everything he needs to like fix himself and be self-sustaining, you know? And that's all he is. And for so long, let's say hundreds of years maybe, Wally has been all on his own doing the job that multiple Wallies have been forced and been ready to do. And so basically, we just get shown who Wally is, you know? And he's lovable. He's has great taste in music. He has a lot of hobbies, you know? He's good at what he does. He's small and lovable and just a good robot, you know what I mean? With a personality. And it's like, I don't know. We'll get to that at the end of the film, but it's just like, I feel like because it's so unique to Pixar, because it is so like they invented him and created him, it felt like they could just be so free with his character and with what they choose to show of him. And I think the idea is that like he's a trash robot, like he's not supposed to be the high luxury ones, you know what I mean, the ones that we see later on. He's more so like the bottom of the barrel because he's left behind on Earth to clean up the mess and stuff, you know? And he's all dirty from all the dirt that he walks on and stuff that throughout the movie he has to get cleaned up because he leaves mud or dirt trails behind him and stuff like that. And I don't know, I love that feeling of like, this is so new, you know? It's not based on anything, you know? Not that the other Pixar movies are based on anything, but it's like superheroes aren't original, you know what I mean? The Incredibles put their spin on it, which I think was really great. You know what I mean? But it's not original. Cars, they're talking cars. You know what I mean? I think the story itself is quite familiar and it feels really good, but it's not that original. You know what I mean? They also had like Transformers. They also had like what's it called? I mean, I was gonna say Thomas the Train, but that's not Cars. But you know what I mean? Talking trains. That's done before. You know what I mean? Um, what else is there? Talking animals is not that new, but a robot who is named Wally. That's pretty. That's new. And that's improvement. And then we enter Eve. Oh my goodness, what a great example of like how two characters, you know what I mean, how she just comes in and she changes his whole world. You know, talk about true love, talk about love at first sight, talk about just exciting how crazy it is for somebody to just land right at your doorstep, right in front of you, and it's just like she becomes everything. And it's a classic trope of like boy trying to get girl, and it's just so cool to see the differences in their robotics. Obviously, they're different robots, but the way that they both have a lot of commonalities because they're robots. And I think they did a really good job of making Eve like this modern, floating, like she's better than Wally in every way. She can fly. She has a gun. She can scan things. She can locate things. She, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't rely on solar energy, or she's like kind of, I don't know, maybe she has a battery. I can't be totally sure, but let's say she does still work on solar energy. So, you know, what it is what it is, but it's just that like she's updated and better and crazy beautiful and shiny, and like she feels brand spanking new, you know what I'm saying? And Wally's kind of like the dirty, small, can't fly, has to like drive around type of a guy, you know what I mean? Just doesn't really fit what you would expect, you know what I'm saying? And yet he opens his world to her. And that's the cool thing, is that she's visiting Earth. You know, she comes in and she disrupts everything. You know, she makes him fall head over heels. But this is his planet. This is his Earth. He's been here alone fixing things. And now he gets to show off a little bit. So when he takes her back to his little hut, you know, showing off all of his little knickknacks and little collectible items, and he sees how quickly she like gets everything, you know what I mean? He shows her the Rubik's Cube, and then 5 seconds later the Rubik's Cube is solved. He shows her the lighter, she lights the lighter. He shows her the what's it called? Oh my gosh, the ladle, like the spinning one, and she breaks it. He shows her the pops, the what are those called? The bubble wrap, and she pops all of it in one go. You know what I mean? It's like it's such a cool thing to be able to share that with somebody. And now he's finally able to do it, and she's great at it. He hands her a light bulb, and she lights the light bulb by touching it. And he's like, "Whoa, what the?" I mean, that's just great writing. And there's no talking. He doesn't have to be like, "Oh, here's a light bulb." He just hands her the thing, and then it glows, and he's like, "What the?" You know what I mean? Like, that's showing and not telling. And that's aspects of, like, you don't need the full-on dialogue to show it off. You know what I mean? You know how sometimes when you, like... sometimes I can just, like, remember a movie, like their dialogue, or I can remember, like, the phrases or certain scenes and sentences. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can remember the Shrek dialogue pretty well. You know what I mean? Or Shrek 2, or Kung Fu Panda, or like, there's certain movies that you just like, oh, that was a great line. I love that dialogue. I could hear that again. Or like, you just repeat it over and over and over again. With Wall-E, it's not that there's not good moments or good like scenes of dialogue or talking. It's just that you need to see it to appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's not the same as like, you know, the gingerbread man in Shrek. Like, that's a funny scene, and you don't need to see that to like convey that or to be funny with it. You know what I mean? You're a monster. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like, I'm not the monster here. You are. And then and then he tries to take the gumdrop button and stuff like that. Like those are things that you can kind of like with the dialogue that you can speak about and talk about and stuff like that. But with Wally, it is purely visual. It is all in what you see and take in. And gosh, they did such an incredible job with this. And it's God, it must have been really difficult for them to kind of be like, how do we convey, you know, how do we show this and also like be able to see that they bond over stuff, you know? How do we get to the plant, right? How do we get to Wally showing Eve the plant and stuff? And it's like, well, Wally's got to try to schmooze her up. He's got to try to talk to her. He's got to try to see her and see if she's interested and stuff. And she's not, and she's keep on looking for the plant. And Wally's trying to, talk to her, seeing what she does and stuff like that. And he gets hit by shopping carts, and he's a complete klutz and an idiot, and he's all these different things. And then he takes her back to his hut. He shows off the dancing, the music, the lighter. And then once they've created like a little bit of an intimate moment, that's when the plant comes up. And then once that plant comes up, everything shuts down. Eve takes the plant, and that's it. Lights out. Move on to the next thing. And that's when we see Wally's love for Eve really show off. And we don't know how long they make it seem like so quick, but it could have been like a week maybe of them, first of all, of Eve just being there, and then like maybe a few days before they actually like talked or got to know one another and stuff. And then finally she takes the plant, and then they're waiting. So that waiting period between like Eve getting the plant and shutting down, and then the spaceship obviously coming back, and then Wally having to like take care of and protect Eve. And that's another beautiful moment, is that once Eve shuts down, it's not like Wally just leaves her to be. He takes her out. You know what I mean? He goes on. He does everything for her. You know what I'm saying? He takes her out. He shows her the water. They see the sunset. They get a look out on the town. He's getting her sunlight while he's getting sunlight. He was making her a part of his life, even though she wasn't awake. None of it. She wasn't there for. And yet he cared for her. He held umbrellas open for her, even though he was a lightning conductor. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as he holds up the umbrella, the rain is going to get not only on her, but the lightning is going to strike him. And then he's going to be like, whoa, I need another umbrella. And he holds up another one. Like, that's just so cute to me. Like, that's just so beautiful. And how much he cares about her. How much he loves her and wants her to be safe. You know what I mean? And that's one of those, like, what's it called? That's the love language of, like, you know what I mean? Of, works of service or something like that. You know what I mean? He's there for her through all of it, all of that waiting period. And you could even make the argument that the waiting period was longer than the actual time they were there together, And then obviously the ship comes down, takes Eve, and Wally's like, whoa, they're taking my girl. Like, I gotta go save her, you know what I mean? He has to leave his cockroach behind, but he'll be okay. He'll survive. He's a cockroach, you know what I mean? So Wally gets up there, and this was before Tom Cruise hung out of that airplane. Wally was on that rocket ship, and he was holding on for dear life, and he went out into space. And another brilliant thing that they did while he was out there in space is, it wasn't something that I was like, I really thought about. I was like, oh, he's in space, he'll be fine. But there was a point in the journey or on the trip where they're on the spaceship, and Wally's like outside and he's like touching the stars and stuff. And I was just like, he opens up like his solar power thing. He opened that up, and I was just like, oh, that's such a brilliant idea. He's surrounded by a bunch of stars, and he works based on solar power. Like, he'll never have to worry about running low on energy or anything like that, or going power down mode or something like that, because he can just literally light it up right then and there. Like, I thought that was such a brilliant idea. Like, depending on how long the journey was, I think as long as it took for them to get there, it's the amount of time it take for them to get back. And then obviously the Axiom, the big spaceship, is still moving, so they had to like go after it and stuff like that. But anyways, I just feel like wow, that was such a beautiful like moment of where they like show you stuff of like, oh, how is Wally going to stay powered up? Well, there's a sun right there, and he just has to open up, and he's full power like instantly. You know what I'm saying? And he can go on for more days and however much longer he needs to. You know, and so eventually they get to the Axiom, and he's like, all right, I got to get my girl. You know, I wonder what's going on with her. I wonder how things are going. And we're introduced to the Axiom, and basically what happens is the Axiom is now the home to all humans after Earth was destroyed and messed up because of us, and we had to abandon Earth. So now all the humans live on there, but now we're all fat. We all sit on chairs with like screens and technology onto it. We drink all of our food out of a cup, and we're just lazy. We're not skinny. We don't exercise. We don't do none of that. And obviously, there's a bit of like over the generations, you know, it's because we've been in space for so long that our bone density isn't as tough as it would be if we were on Earth. So, and just sitting on the chairs all day and not doing much has kind of led us to that way. And so basically, Eve and Wally get there, and Eve is immediately flabbergasted that Wally is here. She's like, what the? Wally, what are you doing over here? And Wally's just like, Eve, you know what I mean? It's like, you're my girl. I had to come see if you were okay. They weren't going to take you away from me. You know what I'm talking about? So anyways, they get to the thing, and it's revealed that Eve has the plant. You know what I mean? They're like, all right, she's got the plant. Let's see it. The captain is kind of like waiting for it, the autopilot, and everybody else is like, all right, let's take a look at it. They open her up, and there's no plant inside her, and everybody's like, what the? Like, oh, snap, you know what I mean? Because the plant is supposed to signify that Earth is, it's proof of life on Earth, and humans can go back to Earth and live there again. But in all actuality is that like the planet and Earth itself is sustainable now. But she doesn't have the plant, so everything goes back to normal. Everybody stays on the ship. Nothing changes, you know? So then Eve is kind of like pissed. She's just like, what the? I had the plan. I don't know where it went. And she blames Wally for a little bit. And she feels like all of the mishappenings and misfortunes that are going on is because Wally showed up and stuff like that. And so basically, she tries to kick Wally out. And she's like, all right, go back to Earth. You know what I mean? And I'm going to stay here and focus on my mission of finding that plant. And Wally's like, screw that. I'm staying with you. I'm not leaving without you. And she's just basically like, whatever. So then we then find out that another robot secretly stole the plant out of Eve and tries to send it out and destroy it so that way, you know, they can't get the plant or whatever. So he puts it in the escape pod, and Wally goes into the escape pod and saves the plant, but gets sent out into space to blow up. And there's a funny bit where Wally's trying to like turn off the thing, but he ends up speeding it up, which was really funny. He tries to open the escape hatch, but it's not working. He grabs the fire extinguisher, and then he opens up the escape pod, and that's where we get the beautiful sequence of like Wally and Eve out there in space, floating around and stuff. Such a beautiful scene, and such a great idea. Using the fire extinguisher for Wally and having Eve fly around and everything like that. It's just so cool. It's such a beautiful like little dance with the stars around them, and I just think it's so cool, man. It's such a brilliant idea to see them both out there. And then once the fire extinguisher runs out, Eve picks up Wally and carries him away, you know, and then they leave that other robot, Bert. I think his name is Bert. They leave him out there, and then they created like a little short story afterwards. I thought that was great, man. So anyways, now that they have the plant, they just have to show off to the captain and be like, well, yo, we got the plant back. and they do just that, but it turns out the autopilot is on strict instructions to no longer go back to Earth. It's ruined, it's destroyed, just keep everybody out there in space and be okay. And the captain is like, yo, that was 700 years ago. Look, the life is sustainable on Earth. We can go back there. We can live lives back there. You know what I'm saying? And the autopilot is pretty adamant. It's just like, no, we have to stay here, and where the robots are in charge and stuff like that. And, you know, to a certain point, I think autopilot was more so like just following orders to a point, and then it became a I'm in charge kind of a vibe. You know what I mean? I'm the one who's leading the ship, not you. You know what I'm saying? And so that struggle against technology is so relevant to today. You know what I mean? Autopilot is just another, obviously a nod to what's it called? The HAL 3000 or whatever it's called in 2001 A Space Odyssey. And they even have music from there to nod to it and stuff like that, which I think was really funny. But then we see Wally has the plant, and autopilot, like, stuns him with his, like, stun gun or whatever it's called. He tasers him, and he messes up his whole battery stuff. And even despite all of that, Wally still keeps fighting, right? He holds on to the plant, and in order to override everything or to fight against autopilot and whatnot, Wally and Eve have to get the plant to the space hole or whatever in like the middle of the ship, put the plant in there, and then they can move on to the next step. While the captain gets stuck in his room or whatever by autopilot, and they all have to fight their way out. So basically, Eve is like trying to carry Wally, trying to get the plant over there. The defective robots that Wally accidentally let out while he's trying to get to Eve help them out, and they fight against all the other robots. And then even a few of the humans start standing up for Wally, and they end up like doing whatever. And so eventually we see the captain fighting the autopilot. We see Eve and Wally getting close to the hole but having to fight everybody else over there. And so now at the very close end of it, we see Wally is like the last thing keeping together the Axiom's like plant thing open, and he's getting crushed by it because it's trying to close, but Wally's keeping it open just enough for everybody to get the plant over there. So even while Wally's down, he's still fighting. He's still strong that way, sacrificing his own self, his own body. You know what I mean? All of his robotics are getting smushed by this thing. And he's still there. He's still fighting. And so Eve is trying to get everybody to pitch in. They throw the plant. Eve puts the plant in there, and then it lifts up. And there's this, before all that, you know what I mean? Before the ending and stuff, there's this beautiful moment where Wally and Eve are like, Wally's dying, basically. And Eve is kind of like, screw the plant. Like, I need you to be okay. And she tries to search for stuff for him, but he's just like, no, focus on the mission, directive. You need to do this. And so they start working together, and then obviously they get the plant in there. The captain turns the autopilot to manual overdrive, and he's in charge of the ship again. And then he just zooms, speed blitz everybody into hyperspace straight to Earth. They get there, and Eve tries to fix Wally back up again in a really fast way, you know what I mean? She's zooming. And then she fixes Wally. But when Wally wakes up or snaps back out of it, he's not Wally anymore. The personality that was in there is kind of gone. He's dead. He's gone. And reviving that robot is nothing. Putting new parts in that robot doesn't make him Wally again. And that was such a great moment of like, what makes Wally Wally? You know what I mean? Basically, he just got reset. So he's not Wally anymore. He doesn't have the same memories, the same experiences, And after getting fixed up by Eve, you would think that, oh, Wally's back, whoop-dee, you know what I mean? Happy, happy, happy. But they did a really great, it was such a brilliant idea. It was like fixing him or putting new parts inside of him changes him. It all changes him. What makes Wally Wally? And Wally just goes back to doing what he was programmed to do and just be a trash compactor. And Eve is trying so desperately to get Wally back because she knows he would do it for her. And dude, it's heartbreaking to see the Wally that we've loved this whole movie be gone. And then we see them have, one more shock, one more kiss of electricity between them. And Wally comes back. And that's it, dude. That's love. That's the transfer. That's the energy that we're talking about. And then Wally comes back. And everything is happy again, The humans come back to Earth and they start planting all kinds of stuff and whatnot. And it feels good. And it just has such a deep message about environmentalism, about technology, about obesity. Talks about, what makes us us. What is the soul? What is our personality? What does it mean to have a heart? And all of those things come together and they do such a great job of it. Wally has a great amount of humanity in him, but he's also a robot. How does that come to be, Is it something greater than ourselves? Is there something about our interactions, our experiences that make us who we are, And I just feel like that's such a beautiful way to show us how to be that way, How to care and love for other people. So, overall, the best Pixar movie, hands down, to fight for second place. I love this movie. Totally rewatchable. Go watch it. You'll love it. And I seriously can't find anybody who truly hates this movie. Yes, is it a little bit flawed? People have made arguments that the villain, the autopilot, isn't really all that crazy bad, but at the same time, it's I'm not really in it for the villain. I'm in it for Wally. I'm in it to see what everybody else is going to do, what they're going to try to do, and in terms of having to fight against machines, I think the autopilot did a good job of being this AI figure, this omniscient, he's in control of everything. He's in control of the captain too. He's supposed to be the autopilot, the co-captain, but it feels like he's kind of keeping the captain. It's like he's in control of the captain and not the captain in control of him. And so when we see the captain stand up for himself and fight back against technology, we see that humanity prevails because we're stronger than, machines. We can turn it off with the switch, They can't stop us in the same way, so to speak. But yeah, I love this movie. It's really, truly something wonderful. And it's stuck with me after all these years, and I've stood firm, 10 toes solid, that's my favorite Pixar movie and the best in my opinion. But maybe I'll rank all of them at some point. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Wally.